Hello, this is Mary Firm, and I'm here today with Brian Massey, the conversion scientist, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the chemistry of the B2B landing page with live critiques from Brian. Um, so,
Hello, everybody.
and there's Brian. Just briefly to introduce myself, I said earlier to Brian, this is the part where they say this is the part of Sprockets where we dance. Um, I'm going to tell you what ReachForce does. If you're not familiar with us, we help B2B marketers accelerate their leads with data solutions for your inbound programs, your database, and contacts, plus a bunch of other fun stuff. But that's really about all I'm going to say because this webinar is really about learning and for me as well as all of the attendees. Brian is one of my favorite experts in this field. I've heard him speak many times. I feel very privileged that he's agreed to come and present with us today. Having said that, let me introduce Brian and let him take over.
Wow, thank you very much. It's very kind. Appreciate that, and I'm glad that you guys are all here. It looks like we're going to have an awesome attendance. So what I'd like you to do is, as I'm going through this, as you have questions, type them into the chat window, and Mary's going to be watching your questions. She's going to collect them so that when I stop and say, okay, any questions so far, or at the end when we're answering questions, you guys will be addressed. So as you have questions, type them in, and we will address them at appropriate points in the presentation. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to start off talking about what it means to build a landing page backward. The reason we want to build it backwards is because you'll start to get an understanding of what the important concepts are. A lot of the time when we build a landing page, we start with our corporate template, and that introduces a lot of things to the page that we just don't want there. I think you're going to get that. We're also going to be looking at your pages, and we're going to do a little quiz so that you can go and move the needle on your site. So let's get started. Mary's given me a very generous introduction, but just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from, my background is in corporate sales, it's in corporate marketing. I'm a computer scientist by training, and I'm an entrepreneur. This is Conversion Sciences. My practice is the second business that I've built. And when you squish all that together, it's hard to come up with what sort of a role you would play in the world. And so I made up one for myself. I'm a conversion scientist. I started Conversion Sciences in 2007. I'm a consultant. I'm a national speaker. I hope you'll check out my new book, Your Customer Creation Equation, on Amazon. And as you can tell, I'm obviously a labware fashion model. So, how to build a landing page that works, the components of a successful landing page, and this will become like a checklist for you as you're putting your landing pages together. And I'm also going to teach you that you should never ask somebody to review your page live. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm going to be very generous, very gracious. We are all struggling with limited resources, so I think having this very concise checklist is going to be helpful to you as you build your pages in the future. So let's jump right in. What are the components of a landing page? Well, when we're mixing a landing page, the first thing we start off is well, let me start off with what a definition of a landing page is. Keep this in mind. This is very important. A landing page is a single-minded page, dead set on keeping the promise made by the ad, the link, or the email that got the visitor to the page, and then getting the visitor to take action. Very single-minded. So in some of our examples, I think you'll see that there are people with many thoughts in mind, and they get a bit confused about what the page is about. Single-minded purpose, keeping that promise, getting the visitor to take action. So when we want to make a landing page, we start with a rich mixture, a rich solution of web page, and we start with a blank web page. We don't start with your template. You can bring those things in later as you think you need them, and I'm going to talk about that as we go. We want to mix an element called offer in and an element called form. These are the most basic elements that you need to create a solution of landing page, a very powerful solution that can turn visits into gold and leads. So the simplest landing page is going to look something like this. Ta-da! That's it. A submit button. We've got an offer. We've got a form. In this case, it's just a button. But this is all you need to create a landing page. Now, of course, we need a better offer. Submit really only works if you're selling dominatrix services. Submit is probably not the best call to action. We could offer some other things like click here now. Oh, this is what we want them to click here. Uh, However, this is not really doesn't really give them a reason to click. It's not a relevant offer. So let's talk about that. How about some free Viagra? I know that this has been working in the marketplace. Get money from Nigeria. The Nigerian bankers have been really busy, and I think that this is working for them as well. The problem is that these aren't relevant to our audience. So how do we create relevance? We're always stopping and thinking, oh gosh, what is the headline of my landing page going to be? What is that intriguing headline that's going to get people to read my page and take action? Well, I got a hint for you, an easy way to do it. Simply go and look at the ad or the link that sent them to the page and duplicate it. So if you offer, come to this page for a free white paper, that's the only way to start your landing page. You are on the landing page that has the free white paper. You don't want to disconnect them. And it can be very subtle in some of the examples I'll show you. Here's an e-commerce, more of an e-commerce for example, but if our offer was 50% off US dollars from the leading reseller, and we have two ads, ad A says discounted dollar bills from the leader in dollar resales, and B says discounted dollar bills 50% off new US dollars from the leading reseller. Which of these do you think is going to be the best match for this landing page? Obviously, the one that says 50% off. If I say 50% off and then go to a page that doesn't say 50% off, I feel like I've been hoodwinked. I feel like, well, where do I go? Where's my 50% offer? And likewise, if I say from the leader and then suddenly hit them with 50% off US dollars, there is a subtle disconnect that will work against you in your lead generation. So make the landing page match the ad's offer, or the email's offer, or the link's offer. And it's got to include a call to action. So we want to create a command that says do this. So we can do something as simple as this: 50% off US dollars from the leading reseller. Click here. But this is getting a little bit big for a button, and I'm sure that there's more that we're going to want to say. So why don't we bring our designer in? Now's the time to bring him in, and we're not going to let her design a page for us. We're going to let her simply say, how can we position these things in a better way? And this is the most common thing. Nice big headline that repeats the offer of the ad, and a button that calls the visitor to take action. 50% off US dollars from the leader in dollar resales. Click here. Love it, love it. Great landing page. The only problem is that this isn't really going to help us with anything. So clicking the button doesn't help. They've clicked the button, but it doesn't move our business forward. What do we need to add? Well, we could ask for their email address and then follow up with an email process to get them to buy dollar bills. But if they're here and they're interested in that, we should ask for a little bit more. We want to make sure we get permission if we're going to send them email. But how about entering a credit card number? Yeah, now we're starting to talk business. Problem is that as we take a credit card, we really need more information. This is qualifying information for the credit card companies. In a business-to-business situation, this could be qualifying information for our sales force. But we need a name, we need an address, we need a security code, we need the expiration date. And there's a problem now because we're asking a lot of personal information. And in the case of the business-to-business examples you'll see, there's a lot of qualifying information that our salespeople need to know who to call first. So the problem is that this will introduce a contaminant called abandon. And when people start balancing 50% off dollar bills, well, is it really serious? Is this really legit? I don't know. They're asking for a lot of information. Maybe I won't do this. People, when asked to spend money, are kind of looking for reasons to leave, reasons to put off the decision. And
Hey, Brian, I'm gonna
yes.
I'm gonna make a couple of quick announcements because this is pretty interesting. First announcement was people were asking about Twitter hashtags, and I sent some questions back at ReachForce or at Mary Firm with an E on the end for some reason. And Brian, I can't remember your well, my husband says firm like a mattress with an E on the end, which I say is for decoration. So Mary Firm, and then what is your Twitter hashtag?
You know, it's hidden under there. So my Twitter handle is B Massey,
Mm-hmm.
B-M-A-S-S-E-Y. I'm sorry that I hid that from you guys. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I had a question because I'm going to play the part of the speaking audience. Do you find that security code causes abandonment when you're asking for credit card? I mean, is there an element here that, because most of us don't collect any of this because most marketing automation isn't PCI compliant. In fact, they tell us not to ever collect this kind of stuff. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm just curious, just from this example, what would be an element here that could really kill abandonment? Those last two?
Well, so you need this. The security code is actually a killer. Just because we've been programmed from the early days that to give an expiration date along with the address and the name, the security code we was added later, and we perceive that as an added level of security. And if you're asking for that online, we're like, oh wow, so that it could be just like they're holding my card now. So it is a conversion killer, but sometimes you can use the CVV and just a zip code, and they don't have to enter things like address. So there can be a trade-off there. You can shorten your form by asking for the security code, but in a business-to-business situation, it's usually not an issue. There are killers in the business-to-business space. So if you ask for their mobile phone, obviously if you ask for social security numbers, the rule of thumb is this: you need to ask questions that will qualify your visitors, but the more fields you add, the lower your conversion rate is going to be. But if you don't add the qualifying questions, you're going to get unqualified leads. So you need to find that balance between asking too many questions so that your sales force can qualify the lead, and asking too few so that everybody and their dog comes in because it's real easy. Oh, they're just asking for email address. I might as well download this even though I'll never read it. You want to find that sweet spot.
So
Good thing to do is,
it really is
well,
like it is really like a chemical formula. I agree with you entirely.
yes, I mean, you want to add the right amount. First thing I would do is look at your forms, go to sales, and say, do you guys really use any of this information? And if they don't, take it off. Take it off, or find information that they would prefer to have when they're screening um, leads to see who to call. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I'm going to send that question out to the audience. And so, if people have, you want to send back, what are your most important questions that you have? And I can ask Brian how important they are, or if they could be potential problems. Seems like the chat bar is working best for me, so I'll send it out that way.
Okay. Well, and you can answer a little bit about. So we've got an example that was submitted, and they happen to use the smart form um, solution. Do you want to talk about what Marketo is doing with their smart form? I captured a few things that I found interesting here.
Yeah, thank you. So Marketo is a marketing automation solution, which a lot of the attendees are actually using. And we are using Marketo here to do our own demand generation. Marketo is actually a customer of ReachForce. So we created a solution called Smart Forms, which it basically sits as hidden fields inside of any landing page lead gen form. And then it uses JavaScript and some magic fairy dust to connect some dots that aren't apparent to the landing page visitor. And really, what it does is, in this instance, we've asked for just Marketo asked for first and last name, their work email address, and the business email is important. I know some people don't want a Gmail address, but I also know a lot of business people that like to use one for various reasons. But when we do have that business URL, that helps with some of the fairy dust. And job function is really, it's a qualifying question for those of us who are trying to screen our prospects to figure out if this is a person who fits. And certainly Marketo is looking for people that are marketing executives. And in this case, the company example is Aptus. And so when you click to download from this form, this is a confirmation step that helps to do a quality match. And if you go to the second, you look down this list, and Aptus on Fashion Island Boulevard is the location of this company. And I believe we have somebody registered from Aptus. So you can, if you're here, let me know if that's the right address. And so we click that, and what this does is in the background, all of this additional information is being passed through the form directly into Marketo, and they're able to see the industry SIC code, the SIC industry name. Also, we have a variety of different data points that you can capture this way. The revenues of the company, the employee size, And for a company like Marketo, they're probably looking for organizations that are of a certain size that are ready to acquire that solution. Or if they're a smaller company with fewer employees and lower revenues, they might want to take their small medium business offering, which was called Spark. So what this has allowed Marketo to do is, by using smart forms, they were able to drastically cut the number of fields they were using a year ago when they started. So now they just ask those few basic questions, and yet they're still able to capture this incredibly rich additional amount of information, and it increased their conversion rates 34%. So
34%. Nice.
and in B2B, that's not trivial. So they
No.
increased the number of leads they were generating by, and I like to say that the shortening the form allowed that conversion increase. I wouldn't say that smart forms caused it, but what smart forms allowed was to not have to ask the qualifying questions. Another example, we did a case study with Web Trends, which is another customer using smart forms. And Web Trends actually use this on top of progressive profiling with Eloqua and now with Marketo. And they actually went from taking 20 days to complete a progressive profile to conclude the prospect profile. Now they do it in 1 day and one visit. So it can be very useful in a B2B environment to allow us to cut those fields that we might not be able to otherwise.
Yeah, and I love that I can get the user can submit his address without typing it in, because address is another one of those conversion killers. It's you get used to typing it, but it just takes a while, and we want them to get through the process before they get distracted. So the second time I came to this page, by the way, I only had 2 fields showing and they were already populated. So if I wanted something else from the success generation kit, then it was very easy for me to go ahead and do that. So
Yeah.
this is what we want from our forms.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about the marketing automation solutions is they sort of bake in a lot of those advantageous things. You can have the form pre-populate based on the data that you've built into the Marketo profile. So when you send out an email, we have one example of a client that used our data pending solution for their entire database. This is Crane Communications, and so when they send out a webinar invitation, they cherry pick based on the data attributes to get the right audience. But then in order to get the registration they were looking for, because they're running short on their registrations, they did a one-click registration that took advantage of all the data they'd already captured. And using Marketo, you click the link and you were registered. There was zero friction. And he said that it more than doubled registration. I think the actual number was somewhere north of 1,000% improvement. Yeah, actually, I remembered. He was getting 4 registrations per 100 emails sent. With the new one click using the data attributes, he got 40 registrations per 100 emails sent. So it was a pretty
Oh my
impressive.
gosh,
Yeah,
that is impressive.
it
Wow.
was, he sort of avoided the landing page entirely with that one.
That's where you can go around the floor, or go around the hall in your company and start doing a little dance, a little 40% conversion rate. That's fun. That's fun. That's when conversion is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys work with more than just Marketo, right?
Yeah, we have a pretty large group of companies. We've got companies using Marketo, Eloqua. On the marketing automation side, there's those two plus Pardot, Silverpop, HubSpot, Acton. There's probably more that I don't know about. We also have implemented it on Sitecore pages, Drupal pages, WordPress pages, and an iframe. It's neat because we really tried to develop it so that we can accommodate the solutions that that our customers spent so much time selecting, so that this didn't have to be another thing they had to wait to figure out how they could integrate it.
Well, our ultimate goal with all of this is to get abandonment down without compromising our ability to qualify leads that are coming in. So um, I think that illustrates a really powerful way of doing that. There is more, though. There is more that we need to do with this landing page, as you might guess. Let's ask the copywriter if they can do something about the abandonment we've got. So the objection here is going to be, you want all of this information with this unsupported promise of dollar bills for 50 cents. Really? So let's bring the copywriter in and see what they can come up with. And just as an example, I brought in a few bullet points. So just for illustration here, this is where you're saying, okay, what do I need to say with my copy that's going to support not my business, not my product, but the offer? And this copywriter says genuine US dollar bills, they're new, they're still in circulation. There's another 900 billion coming soon. Of course, they're printing all the time. And the copywriter felt that this was going to be enough, and this is a format for this particular landing page. Your copywriter, or if you're doing the copy yourself, need to not be asking, what do I need to write about my business or my product? What do I need to write about the offer? Landing pages are single-minded. They support the offer. And I'll show you in the examples some ways to apply that. So we've got an offer. We've got some supporting copy to reduce the abandonment. We've got a form. What else do we need? Well, there's some more what I wouldn't call minor elements, but additional things that you can add to the page to make conversion rates go up. One of these is trust. So you want to build some trust. If your company, for instance, is known to the visitors, make it prominent to build trust. So if you've built a brand with your company, your logo will help build trust. If you're unknown, or if you have a logo that doesn't look professional or doesn't really communicate well what you're about, there are plenty of big companies that put their master company logo on smaller subdivisions that people didn't think IBM did that, or people didn't think BaseF did that. If the logo helps, put it on, but you don't have to put it on as a knee-jerk reaction, unless, of course, your corporate style guide requires it. What you can also do is, if you're asking for a credit card, go ahead and use the Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express badges. Most of us believe these are informational, but the truth is we're borrowing trust from these financial companies. If we're putting these company names on our page, if they're letting us, then we must be legit, is the thinking, and you'd be surprised how well it works. Putting your other customers, other people who have used your product, or people who have taken advantage of this offer would even be better. Put them on the page. Even if they aren't necessarily well known, their logos can lend some sense of trust and credibility to you. The other thing we can offer is proof points and social proof, which is getting easier to collect and is very, very powerful in the psychology of our visitors. So in this case, we added a little something to the copy. Over 13 trillion sold this year. And you need to go in and see what sorts of proof points you can put in. How many people have watched the webinar? How long has it been out there? How many customers do you have? How many times have customers done something? Like ReachForce, you guys should have an idea of how many leads you've generated with your products, and be able
this is really, sorry to interrupt. I love this because, I was listening to something on NPR yesterday, and they were talking about one of the most important proof points for just consumer like blogs is the most emailed story.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that for a lot of us in B2B, some of those proof points are the logos of our other customers. Certainly I showed that Marketo page not by accident. But showing who those customers are, some of the solutions you support, it proves that other people have made the decision. And this is a great way to illustrate this point.
Yes, it makes me feel comfortable taking action because I'm not the only one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then, of course,
hey, Brian, before we jump, because I know you're going to a new part, I'm getting a lot of questions, and it started turning into a smart forms pitch, so that was not my intention. But a number of the questions that have come up about what are the important B2B questions that you're asking, and what are some of the capabilities of smart forms, since I did touch on that. Smart forms can append up to, for any particular company, we can append up to 8 different SIC codes and NICS codes. I always mispronounce those, so 4 and 4, and industry for each of those, because I know that most of us in the internet space are in the telegraph industry, according to the SIC. So that can automatically be handled by smart forms. Additionally, employee size, so the number of employees at a location, as well as the number of employees at the domestic headquarters, as well as the global total headcount. And these hierarchy pieces are important for companies like, there's a little company called Slide Rocket in San Francisco. And to me, as a former the Web 1.0 person, I don't know what SlideRocket is, but SlideRocket is actually, as many of you probably know, a great presentation software company that was acquired by VMware, which is a bigger company certainly, and that is owned by EMC. And so for people in enterprise space, that type of information is super helpful, and all of those relationships can actually be appended by smart forms. The other question I'm seeing here is, what about demographic info? So business size, we can get employee size, we can get the annual revenues at the site, the domestic headquarters, the global. What else? Industry, I just addressed that. So we also, one of the things I think is really cool, because I come from old school direct mail, the solution can append, we actually append a physical mailing address with a 9-digit zip code. So you can actually, if you have a large volume of leads, I know that one of our clients actually does a mailing piece, because Brian, you touched on this earlier, the need to ask for an opt-in. I think many of us can attest to the fact that one of the situations in B2B is we often get lists from partners, and sort of get inferred or implied consent to do email. But one of our clients actually takes some of the smart forms information with the mailing address if they don't have consent, and they actually mail something out. And also we append a real phone number. So you don't have to ask for a phone number, but you can get a phone number. And with that, you can do telequalification behind it, answer some of those really pressing types of behavioral questions or buying intent questions or role questions. But so there's really quite a lot that can be added. So I just kind of wanted to take those in turn, because there was a whole bunch of them that came up. But I'm going to
Yeah, and how can folks follow up with you? Should they email you directly, or what should they do?
Absolutely. You can email you can write to me directly at mfirm@reachforce.com. You can also write to sales@reachforce.com. That'll go directly to the sales team. But feel free to reach out. A lot of people hit me through LinkedIn, but yeah, just I think you all can reach me via any of the letters that were sent via the webinar.
Awesome. Well, we're getting to the point, it sounds like, where all our landing pages are simply going to be a button. We already know who you are. It's starting to sound a little like Google, isn't it? So shall I continue?
Yes, please. And so we are going to talk more about, I got one question about the landing page design, and we're going to get into the meat of that now. So thank you for that question.
Okay. Yeah, and there's one more component that's really important. Marketing 101 is show the product. Always show the product. And most of you guys have a problem with that, because you're giving a webinar or a PDF download, or even worse, a free consultation where there isn't anything physical for me to touch and feel. Well, you've got to show the product. And an image is so powerful that you really have to get creative about how you do that. I'm going to give you some suggestions here. In fact, when we dive into the first couple of examples, which I prepared, but always show the product, and it has to be the product. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a minute. So the call to action has become invisible. Let me take you back here. It has become invisible. So we've got a picture, we've got logos, we've got proof points, we've got a big high contrast headline. Where is the call to action? What is this page about? It's about click here, but it's really not about click here. It's about get your discounted dollars. So we take that button, we pump it up, we give it a color that is different from the color of the rest of the page. In this case, there's a lot of red, so we wouldn't pick red, or there's also a lot of blue, we wouldn't pick blue. So we picked orange. If you're going to be incorporating some of your corporate colors into the design of the landing page, and you are black and purple, then your buttons should be something like green or blue, although blue and red aren't going to stick out from purple as much. They could be orange. So, all you want to do is make sure that the visitor at a glance sees that they're going to be asked to do something, and the text on the button tells them what's coming. It doesn't hurt to add a little bit of a pointer to it, and you can also screen back. If you've noticed, I've screen backed the logos of my customers. A lot of times you'll see the logos done in grayscale so that they don't draw the eye away from the most important part, which is the headline, the copy, and the call to action button. So these are all great techniques to make it very clear that this landing page is asking for a specific action. So now is when we give it to the designer, and we ask him to move things around. We ask him really to be more of a draftsman than a creative designer. Don't let him come in and say, oh, we need a picture of an old couple enjoying their money. We need to put a big header at the top, some sort of banner, and we need to come up with a pithy tagline. Dollars are great when you spend them, or something like that. None of that is going to move your conversion rate, and in fact, it's probably going to increase abandon and confusion. Tell them, I want you to take this, I want you to use your knowledge of color, font, white space, positioning, juxtapositioning, captions. Those sorts of things are the things that you need to be working with. Don't change anything else. And finding designers that are willing to do, that are able to do that without getting creative, can be a bit of a challenge. So here is the something you can take back. I want you to count the number of things on your favorite landing page that aren't one of the following components. They're not part of the offer, they're not part of the form, they're not part of proof, trust, image. If they don't fit into one of these buckets, they are most likely abandoned and causing that sort of thing. This is a great exercise. Go in and see what you can strip out. Simplifying your landing pages is usually one of the first things that you can do. And let's take a real quick example. So we start off looking at that Marketo page. Let's finish it off and see how these guys are doing. So number one, they've got an offer and they've got a form. So these are the first basic elements that are needed in a landing page. Good job, guys. There's not much trust on this page, but they do put their company logo up here, and Marketo is has been really working hard to get their name out. Among us, I think they've become a very common name. So the Marketo logo is a good trust builder, in my opinion. They have an image, and they have a great image here. They show the products. Now, all of these products in this success kit are downloadable. They're PDFs, they're pre-recorded webinars, but they've been able to make them look like something that I can hold. And no one is going to take action until they can imagine themselves using what you're offering. So I think this is a great way to do that. Good job on the image. There's a little bit of abandon here right at the top. So the demand success kit is the first thing I see, and the next thing I see is, oh, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Man, maybe I should go see how cousin Bertha's doing, or didn't they just get married? I better go see. Oh my gosh, it's been 10 minutes since I checked Facebook. I better go check. These are sources of abandon. I know you want to create sharing, but the first thing that this page needs to do is get the person that you invited here and finishing the form. Why pay people to come to your landing page and then send them off to Mark Zuckerberg? We don't want to do that. So this is the only abandon I really see on the page. So otherwise, this is this page really does follow our process. What's missing? What did you not see on that page? I'll give you one more peek real quick. What's missing? If you said proof, I would agree with you. There is no proof. However, after I filled out the form and went to the landing page, I actually found this. This success kit has 22,000 views. Awesome social proof. Why wouldn't that be on the landing page? That's exactly the sort of thing that would make me feel that this success kit is being seen by other people. So Marketo, take this and put it on your landing page, and I think you'll have a complete and high converting landing page. So here's a little test for you guys. I'm going to go through this real quickly so we have time for the examples. Very quickly, which of the following qualifies as one of the important landing page ingredients? A, site navigation. B, social media icons. C, ratings and reviews. D, the company mission statement. And if we had a polling situation here, I could go out and see how you guys were voting, but we don't at this time. So I'm going to tell you that oftentimes people vote for C and D, ratings and reviews, and company mission. But the answer is not site navigation, because that leads people away from your landing page. That qualifies as abandon. As we just said, social media icons can cause abandon. And the company mission statement, unless you're selling your company's mission, doesn't belong on the landing page. With the caveat that if it really builds trust, if you have one that's not gobbledygook and it makes me feel like I can trust your company, it might be appropriate, but we don't want to add that. Ratings and reviews, especially in an e-commerce world, provide excellent social proof and have been very successful. So let's talk about some examples here. I want to first start off with Rockwell Automation. This is one of the first ones we saw. Let's take a look at what we think we see. Oh, sorry about that. So I see an offer here, right? We got some form here. So we got the basic components of the landing page in place. The next thing I'm going to be looking for is proof. And we got some proof. So there's quite a bit of copy written out here, and this constitutes the proof that we're looking for. It's an updated booklet. They talk about ISO 13849. I'm hoping that all of this is important to the people that are reading, and a nice bulleted list of the things that I'll get from it. The thing they forget to mention here is 150 pages, which for somebody who's really looking for all of the information, that would be a benefit. So they should probably mention that it's 150 pages of good stuff. They can download an electronic version. This is very interesting, giving them an option. But the most highly visible thing on the page is this. That's where one of the first places the eye is going to go, not here to the submit call to action, and this is not even clickable. So this is a problem. Our highest contrast item on the page is not even clickable, in fact, not even relevant to the call to action. And as you can see, there is a lot of abandon on this page. A lot of distraction, social media distraction here, navigation to other places. This all needs to be removed. Let them get their form.
I smell corporate bureaucracy on this page.
Yeah, you very well might. You very well might. And the offer really is here. So if I get this guide, I'm going to know how to adopt functional safety standards to meet the machinery directive. And we all want to meet this machinery directive, don't we?
I mean, this is like fighting robots, right? I mean, everybody wants this. This is, while we're sitting there, I have a couple of really good questions that are relevant to, proof points. There's two questions, and this is for a webinar. If the email says register now, for the page where they register for the webinar, should we have a brief blurb at the top of the page about the webinar again, or should the landing page just be the registration form?
So you're talking about a landing page that doesn't have anything about the webinar?
You got an email, and the email takes you to an email-specific landing page.
Oh, the email needs to have enough copy, as it needs to overcome its own kind of abandon to get them to click through. So the subject lines.
But once they're on the landing page, how much should you repeat about the offer for the webinar?
You could repeat it all if it's good copy. If you want to change it, you could change it up. If they feel like they already read this in the email, great. If I didn't read it in the email, I was curious, great. You could actually almost duplicate it with the caveat that email is a person-to-person medium, even in business.
Mm-hmm.
So the email should be a little bit more personal. It should be from somebody specific and use the first-person voice. You may not want to do that on your landing pages.
Okay.
But otherwise, yes.
Okay. And the second question, I'm going to go ahead and guess at the right answer, and then Brian's going to see if I've learned anything today. The question is, for proof, would customer quotes about the product work? And I'm going to say yes, especially if it's a testimonial saying they like the product.
Yes, but if your landing page isn't pitching the product, it may not be appropriate. If you have people who have said, I liked this white paper, or I love attending ReachForce webinars because they usually have people on like Brian Massey, and he's really wonderful. Those sorts of testimonials would be far more powerful than you talking about your products, or somebody else even talking about your products or your company. However, testimonials do work, and so I think it's fine to bring those in to a landing page, even if they're not talking about the offer.
Cool. So this is really helpful.
Yeah, good, good. Well, let's look at this page. What is missing again? What do you see that's missing? We have a little bit of trust up here. We've got the logo, and Rockwell is a well-known brand. But what is really missing is the image. There is no image. And when we don't have an image, so they're selling something that's not physical. They do have the book. They could take a picture of the book. But for those of you that are just selling a PDF with your landing pages, I want you to avoid going to business porn. The tired, shaking hands, the friendly lady with the headset on, smiling at you. Am I going to talk to her? If I'm going to talk to her, put her on there. But if that's not who I'm going to talk to, don't put her on there. And then these random, if I hire this company, something's going to go up, and that's a good thing, right? So avoid these things. We want to get rid of those things altogether and get creative. So for those of you, I'm going to show you very quickly how easy it is. I did this. I actually downloaded the safe book that was advertised, put it into PowerPoint, did a few transformations on it, added a little shadow to it, and I had a picture of the book. And on the page, this allows me to really, number one, create an eye-grabbing thing, and also I can imagine using this, holding this, even though I know I'm going to download it. You're going to have to trust me on this. It works. If you're selling software, you could show a DVD, a video, a DVD. These things work, and I think it's one of the reasons that Marketo uses it on their landing pages. And okay. So we're going to move into the other examples, and I'm going to switch over to a different piece of software so that we can have a little more fun marking them up. Once again, I encourage you guys to buy my book, Customer Creation Equation. And Mary, are there any URLs that you want them to know about before we dive into the examples?
There's two things I want to say. One is that is so cool about the drop shadow. I had never even thought of that, but it adds such a legitimacy to the offering, and it does make it seem like something physical. And Marketa's been doing that to me forever, so I keep thinking I'm going to actually download a physical 150-page book. And Brian is going to be offering a download of his book, the first chapter, so you can get a sense of what it's about. It's pretty cool, and it's really easy to read and digest. And one of the things that Brian encouraged me to remind me to mention is that do I have an offer about my product? And so something that we always offer with smart forms, which is really most relevant to landing pages, is anybody who sees that the solution is a fit and signs up for it gets a 13-month agreement that allows them to try it out for the first month. And if it's not working out, just send us an email, and that's all done. So basically, it's an offer of 1 month free trial with an agreement for 13 months, and you've got it out anytime in the first 30 days. So did I do my offer?
Awesome.
Okay.
I'm signing right up.
Okay, glad to hear it. So let's see some more landing pages. This is fun.
All right. So what I'm going to do is do a little magic here. Boom, boom, and boom. All right, you guys should be seeing.
So we're seeing the water cooler, and
Excellent.
the toy is really cool. So I'm glad you switched to this. What did you say? It's OneNote?
This is Microsoft OneNote.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to do is get rid of. Okay, so let's take this as the first one. I like this one because it was very simple. So what have we got here? We've got, folks, we got some image. We got an image of the product. Nicely done. Very well done. We've got a call to action, which is try Absolute free for 30 days. I hope that this matches the offer on the ad. We got a form. Nicely done. Tell me more. Is that a strong call to action? Should this be get your water, sign up for your water, get free cooler? And all they detail here is that you get cooler rental, overcoming the issue of, wow, I don't have a cooler. Oh, so I get 5 gallons, great, and I get a free case of water on the side. So this is very straightforward. I think the copywriter did a good job of keeping this minimal. I don't know that these images are helping necessarily, but they are showing the product, so perhaps they are working fine. Here's a little bit of trust building going on here. This is what we're going to call proof. So what are we missing? Trust, proof, offer, form, image. I think we pretty much got everything. Nicely done, guys. This is a company called Cyber, and they are promoting a Escape Lotus, promoting a platform, a Salesforce platform that replaces Lotus. And I'm always surprised to hear that Lotus is still around because it has been around for so long. They have a lot of copy here to support what they're offering, and it's not clear what they're offering. So I think that they get a poor grade on the offer. Are they offering the platform? Is that really what it is? Or are they offering some piece of software or some piece of content that will teach me how to drive results? Are they offering something for me to read? Are they offering me a pet rock? Maybe this is a pet rock page. That certainly seems to be what this is.
It might be Serenity. It
Maybe
might be a Zen Serenity landing page or software solution.
it could be. It could be a trip to the beach. Yay! What basically has happened here is we've got a little bit of business porn sneaking in. Some designer was like, I don't know, read the white paper and put your mind at ease. That's what we'll say. But I don't think it's very relevant. What's relevant is right down here. Look at these fantastic videos. These are customers talking about saying goodbye to Lotus, and these are buried here at the bottom. Video converts very well. It's a fantastic way to add image to your product. And that's what these are. These are big eyes, big image. I would pick one maybe and have one be minor, but bring them right up here. Boom, watch the thing and figure out what the offer is. There is the clicks on these offers or pet rock offers or whatever could qualify as form, although it doesn't really feel like that. In other words, it's not like the little arrow here doesn't really scream, go and do this. There are links here, read more. So it sounds like a content offer. If there's more to read, show me what I'm going to be reading. So this page, I would imagine, does not have a very high conversion rate unless the employees are only sending their moms to this page and begging them to just fill out whatever comes towards them. Eagle's Flight. So here's one that has a really long form. There's a lot of form on this page. They're not a training company, they're a learning company. Experience is a powerful teacher. I'm not seeing offers yet. Here it is. If you would like to, well, we would like to hear about your needs. So the offer is, tell us what your needs are. Well, there are a bunch of us that are altruistic and really into that, but I suspect it's a really weak call to action, and there is a lot of killers on this. City, state, and province. Why do you really need to know that? Country. This is so you can sign the right salesperson. Why are you making me fill this out?
Well, actually,
Job.
I think I saw this one, and my first response was, this looks just like Web Trends landing page before they replaced it with the smart forms, because literally everything below job title, other than the action box of tell us more, is all replaced by smart forms.
Right.
Or can be.
Yeah, well, so and I think so. If we could actually just axe all of this, that would be a powerful reduction in the onerousness of this form. Unfortunately, this page needs some imagery. It needs some proof, and I haven't read through here. There may be some proof, but really, this is what we call a posing page. We're not a training company. We're a learning company. It's about us. It's about we, and we say that what they're doing is weeing all over themselves. Landing
Brian,
page is about the visitor.
So let me speak from the marketer's perspective, because that's an interesting point. You've actually said it twice, but I'm a bit thick-headed, so it took me a minute. I think that because we're all taught to be businessy, there's a lot of third-person neutrality that we try to bake into our content, whether it's email content or landing page content, web page content, and I think, when I looked at this originally, other than the form, I didn't really think about some of these items, but certainly image and so forth are good. But what is the right, what are you seeing in terms of your clients and improved conversions? What is the right tone that you want to take? Because I know that if you go to the ReachForce website, I guarantee you I have a ton of pages that are, that really go to this place as well. All about me instead about my customer. What's a better way to approach this?
Yeah, so the better way to approach this is to realize that business people are people too, and you've got to have a voice for your brand. You can't go stock business. You've got to have a voice for your brand in business. So the examples that we see are those where people actually get a little out on the edge, and they have these incredible conversion rates by being humorous, by being entertaining. Sometimes, oftentimes, that results in less qualified people. People are coming for the entertainment, and that is an issue. You don't want to do that. But let me show you something. As we scroll down here, there's this little video. So this is the founder, and he says, let me show you an example of the difference between a a lecture learning experience and an experiential learning experience.
I
And
love
he
that. I love
talks,
the title at the bottom. Add the wow factor for better business results.
yes, that should be at the top of the page. I hadn't even seen that. Add the wow factor for better
I
business
mean,
results.
I'm suddenly completely interested in what these guys do.
Exactly. And if you watch this video, I wish I'd pulled it out because it was almost worth playing. But he holds up a piece of paper, says, "Here's the difference between a triangle and a square structurally." And then he actually gets a model out and he says, "Okay, take your model and do this sort of thing." And it was so compelling that people who really want their employees to get it are going to hire this company. And it's all buried down here at the bottom. So add the wow factor for better results. You're absolutely right. That would be a fantastic way to get people to read the next paragraph. But that's it. So this is a business offering, and the most compelling thing we've seen on the page has been very, oh my gosh, I'm going to use wow in business speak. Is that legal? Can I do that? The answer is absolutely and yes. That's why I use things like the chemistry of a landing page instead of 7 tips on how to improve your landing page. And it works for me. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, and I think that, because I think that I want to make sure that the audience understands that Brian is not picking on anybody, and but it's always hard to have your own work critiqued. But I just want to go ahead and throw a hand out and say I have a ton of white paper landing pages right now that are, oh my word, I think I was a little too terrified to let you look at any of them, but I'm updating most of them. So, but these are great points, and I think that remembering that it's about your customer and not about your company is probably the biggest takeaway that I'm gonna basically like tattooed on my arm because it's and from a copywriting standpoint, I think a lot of people get violated on that one.
Yeah, and in all fairness, I think we may have found the 404 page of this group because
Right.
there's a that may be what we're looking at here. But anyways, still, I think the critique is valuable, and what I hope we're doing is getting you to the point where it becomes easier to create landing pages because there's so many things you could think of what you could do, what you should do, what you could say, what you should say. This should make it easier for you to create landing pages because the more landing pages you have, the better you're going to be doing. So
Do
we've
you have
got
any,
about
you have any,
5 minutes or
I,
6 minutes. So
yeah, I was going to
I,
say, what if anybody has a question they want answered, just please send it along. If we don't get to any questions, we'll certainly follow up by email or post. Actually, what I'll do is I'll probably post it on our blog, which is blog.reachforce.com.
yeah,
Um,
just have them email me directly, sure,
yeah,
or both of
and but
us.
we'll try to collect everything in one place. Also, the video that Brian made that shows you how to convert a static flat 2D image into a three-dimensional book image in PowerPoint, by the way, we're going to post that on YouTube, so you'll be able to kind of go and look at that as a reference to maybe improving some of your flat images to get that dimensionality and that feeling of a physical offering. So, did you have one more page, or is there a last thing anybody wants to do? We still got about 60 people here.
We talked about this page, so I'm going to move beyond that. Let me see if there are any different lessons to be learned here. Here we can see an interesting example of using image. Again, it's a report, it's a PDF, but they're showing it actually on a table next to a cup of coffee. So again, I am imagining reading this thing. And one of the things is there's some abandon here on this page. Social media icons, they're down and out of the way, so if you actually have to do that, the best place to put these is on the thank you page. Thank you page. Let them connect with you then because they've just bought something of yours. They have something to share. Help marketing research teams stay relevant. The offer is not real clear. It's a free download. And it turns out that this is the title, but you want to be clear on those sorts of offers.
Hey, Brian, can you jump to, I just got two requests. Can you jump to the Obj 3D page? And so I've got that one. I don't need the URL because Brian's already looked at it. And then the other one I've got, we're going to go to, I'll send this to you via email. For some reason, Brian isn't getting the other stuff. Um, do
I'm
this,
not
and then
getting.
I've got one more URL for you. And if anybody wants to stay behind, we'll finish up. I don't know how much more. We'll maybe go 5 minutes over if we've got time for that.
Okay, awesome. So anyways, Objet, they're selling materials that you can actually use when you're rendering things in 3D. So this is pretty technical. Make it real with Object 3D's printing materials, 3D printing materials. So if I'm interested in that, I think that call to action is going to work for me. here we got the second highest contrast item on the page is fill out the form for an object representative to contact you. So this is fine. You're filling out a form for a sales call, but as long as you're clear about what you're filling it out about, people who fill this out are going to be qualified because they know what they're going to get. Unfortunately, they say submit, and when this could probably say, call me within 1 business day, call me within 2 business days, or something like that, because they're asking for a call. They have quite a bit of information here. They're asking for industry. Phone number is going to be required for the call. Country, is that really required? Maybe so. Is zip code enough? At any rate, every one of these you should look at and say, do we need to know that piece of information? Is a company required? Do we look at that? Or would title be more important? So we have somewhat of an offer. We have the form. We have an interesting way of showing the image, showing the product. 60 plus materials. There's some proof around the product. This doesn't really support the call to action. So what sort of proof would you put in here? Our representatives are knowledgeable. They work in the 3D business. They can help you find a material for a specific purpose. The call will only take 15 minutes. You're selling the call, and in this case, they are selling the product, and that is not what a landing page needs to do unless they feel that this is cold traffic that's coming and needs a little bit of understanding of what the business does. What was the other one that you wanted to see?
I just sent you it via email. It's for big machines.
Oh, I've got big machines
I would
here
say something because I
somewhere.
think another thing that we often find is because I think a lot of us are very familiar
Here
with
we
our
go.
own industries and our customers, but we don't have anybody outside of our office look at our pages out of our industry. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be a really good practice to just sort of network with other, you could probably go to a Marketo user group or a marketing automation user group or a, digital marketers. My favorite one is the director of marketing support group. You'll often find me in tears and for some
Yeah.
reason. No, I'm just kidding, guys. But just looking at the object 3D printing page, one observation I had, and I don't know if others felt this way, was the object itself to me wasn't really recognizable. It was a little abstract, and maybe that's the point. Is it's like so artistic. I guess I've been seeing stuff about 3D printers where you can really like see the object. So
Yeah. See, I would have liked to have seen something physical, and they have some examples here at the bottom. So we can make things look like glass or paper or a tire, um, things like that. So this was more helpful. This is normally where you would put some proof
yeah.
very near the call to action button. So yes, I agree. They could have done something better than that. It's interesting. It's
All right.
interesting. It
I was
definitely
going
caught
to say
my eye.
that. So our last page, I think, is going to be big machines. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought this up because this one is my favorite of all of them. So let's take a look at here. Case study. We've got an offer. Form. We've got a form here. They're asking for reasonable information, I think. It's not really clear how these separate, so I think that there's something they could be doing with separation here to make this form easier to fill out. They've got great job on the image. They rendered it as a physical book. They've got some proof. I'm sorry. They've got trust. Trust builders everywhere. Look at these logos: Kodak, Shortel, Siemens. Nicely done. Nicely done. They got some proof. Big Machines awarded the Customer Choice Award. Uh, and so the eye is drawn here, and the eye is drawn here. Nice big arrow. This they get a gold star for that because it lets me see exactly where I'm going. Get instant access. I would rather have seen that on the button, but that's okay. That's a very powerful call to action. And what does the copy do? Big Machines is an ideal solution for growing mid-sized businesses that need quick, simple, and intelligent way to. So they fell down on this proof point when they don't sell the offer, they're selling their customer, and it's we. So they were so close to the perfect page. They had all of the elements that you would expect, and they just fell down on the copy. So of all the ones I saw, I thought this one was the closest to winning, but I got to tell you, the copy is really, really, really important. So this one may not even convert that high. unless I already knew what I was looking for. What a great title. Alert Logic eliminates order errors and triples quote to order time. What a fantastic headline. This is exactly what I'm getting, exactly what I'm trying to do. I am interested in this. Maybe they didn't even need any more copy.
Well, I'm
So
gonna
I think that's the winner.
Yeah, well, I think so too, and I think that someone down the road is going to be seeing one of my pages looking quite a lot like that. It's 2:05. We went 5 minutes over, and I know a lot of you need to go, and I appreciate you committing to this time and coming to visit with us. I'm going to go ahead and make a request, which I'm sure is being circulated amongst our visitors, which is, can we do this again and just do landing page critiques?
Oh, you didn't like my presentation on landing pages?
No, I liked it, but I think everybody got, I was watching, there's like an attention meter on here, and I can see that everybody got a lot more attentive when we started, like, picking on each other and actually learning quite a lot from,
Ah, okay.
I think people like
Absolutely.
yeah, experiential learning is kind of my thing. So I think that could be a useful type of webinar, and I think we'll plan on something like that in a couple of months. So if you didn't get your
Perfect.
page critique this time, then hopefully we'll do it next time. But I think we're going to wind it up there. So I'm going to say thank you to our fantastic presenter and super experienced conversion scientist, Brian Massey. This is Mary Firm at ReachForce, and really appreciate your time. And I hope to see you again soon. So have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.